ಕಲ್ಪನೆಯ ರಾಶಿಯಲಿ ಭಾವನೆಯ ಪಾಶದಲ್ಲಿ ನೆರಳ ನಾಟಿಹೆ ನಾನು ಲೋಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಕಲ್ಪನೆಯ ರಾಶಿಯಲಿ ಭಾವನೆಯ ಪಾಶದಲ್ಲಿ ನೆರಳ ನಾಟಿಹೆ ನಾನು ಲೋಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಸತ್ಯವೇ ಸತ್ಯ ಎಂದು ನಂಬಿ ಬದುಕಿದೆ ಗೆಲ್ಲಿ.
These questions are designed
So you see the extent of the madness. 12 people.
What's that?
So I said, you see 12 people, you see the extent of the madness.
That's right. Yeah. These questions are designed to unfold and explain
That
the teachings of Ramana Maharshi
I see.
as set out in his original booklet, Who Am I? And Self-Inquiry.
Yes.
So the first question, Ramana proposed the fundamental question,
Yes.
who am I?
Yes.
Who are you?
Who am I? That's the question. And you are asking me, who am I?
Yes.
I would change the question to who am I? Who thinks he is the doer? That's my, who am I? I have changed it into who am I as a self-investigation. Ramana Maharshi called it self-inquiry. I call it self-investigation. Who am I? Am I there as a doer? That is not. And when I know that I am not the doer, then I automatically know who am I. If I am not the doer, who can I be other than the source? See? So for me the question is, who am I who thinks he is the doer of his actions as separate from someone else who is the doer of his actions? And this investigation leads me to the conclusion that neither I am the doer nor the other is a doer. In fact, there is no doing as such. All there is the happening of a happening. The world, what happens, is a happening according to the cosmic law.
Are you saying Ramesh is a manifestation of the source?
Ramesh is a three-dimensional object which, together with billions of other three-dimensional objects, constitute the totality of manifestation. A separate species of object, but nonetheless basically a three-dimensional object. Ramesh is the name given to a three-dimensional object with a specific species. The various species are, according to my concept, a stone, a growing plant, an animal, and a human being. In other words, what I'm saying is the human being is an animal with senses, exactly like an animal, but with an additional dubious gift of mind intellect, which may keep on making him think and become frustrated. Basically, the human being is an animal with the additional gift of mind intellect. Basically, a three-dimensional object.
Many Western seekers come to India looking for enlightenment,
Yes.
as if it is an experience.
Yes.
What is enlightenment?
Enlightenment is a happening. Enlightenment is a happening. Enlightenment is a happening. And for a happening to happen, a three-dimensional object is necessary. A human being is necessary for a happening to happen. Enlightenment is a happening which happens in a human body which lives its life as a separate entity. It's a happening.
So it's definitely not an experience.
Enlightenment is not an experience. An experience is what I call a free sample. It is not enlightenment. An experience is a free sample of what enlightenment truly means.
So you would say it's like a glimpse, or it's like a satori.
Yes, glimpse. Yes.
Would you say that often in this kind of satsang meeting, many of the people that come to these meetings,
Yes.
they would have such a glimpse?
Depends on their destiny. Who has the experience depends on the person's destiny. But the danger of such an experience, there is a danger. An experience like this happens, and there is a danger of the individual seeker considering himself a special person who has been offered this experience. And thereafter, the seeker mistakenly, instead of seeking enlightenment as he was doing before, now he seeks that experience, which to my mind is an obstruction. So whether the person gets involved in the experience or not, is his destiny. But there is that danger of mistaking a sample for the real thing.
And is there a way he could tell, she could tell, what is the real thing and what is the experience?
I mean, it's an experience. There's no question about it. It is an experience. Question is, how much importance I give to that experience. If I have the wisdom to realize an experience is an experience, it's a free sample, is one thing. But if I consider that this is it, I am enlightened, then he goes after more experiences.
Are there any qualifications for enlightenment? Is sadhana necessary? And if yes, what form do you advise?
Who does the sadhana? Who is supposed to do the sadhana? Someone is supposed to do the sadhana. So someone does the sadhana. Some separate entity doing the sadhana sees other separate entity not able to do that sadhana. He considers himself a special person who deserves enlightenment. And that, to me, is a big obstruction. So if they are able to do the sadhana and realize that sadhana is what is happening through that body-mind organism, and there is no doer of any sadhana, that is excellent.
So would you say that some kind of practice is prerequisite to prepare this object, this mind-body organism, for the potential of this understanding to happen?
The understanding to happen is a happening. Whether that understanding happens or not is ultimately the destiny of that body-mind organism, that separate entity. Whether enlightenment happens or not, that is my basic point. Enlightenment is a happening. It can happen only according to the cosmic law and the destiny of the person concerned. So the enlightenment is to happen, it will happen. If enlightenment to have happened without any sadhana. Enlightenment will happen without any sadhana. So you use the word prerequisite. I do not think sadhana is a prerequisite. In fact, that's the whole point about Ramana Maharshim. He said he was never a seeker. He didn't do any sadhana. And then the final understanding happened.
In his case, it happened when he was rather young, yeah, about 14 or 15 years old.
Yeah.
But it's
Maybe 16. I don't
16, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's a fairly rare case, I guess.
Indeed.
And in the majority of cases, it seems to happen more to people who spend many years in some kind of practice, chanting, meditation.
Now, there again, there is no hard and fast rule. If the final understanding is to happen in some case without too much sadhana, so much sadhana is not necessary. But if it is the destiny of a particular person, particular separate entity, for considerable hard sadhana to be done, that will happen. So the basic understanding is nothing can happen unless it is supposed to happen according to the cosmic law and the destiny of the person concerned. That is the ultimate acceptance. There is no hard and there cannot be any hard and fast rule about certain things to be done and then you will get enlightenment. No.
Meaning the ancient Indian wisdom of Vedanta, they set out a kind of program for somebody who would aspire to awaken, which involves, in fact, many years of practice. Do you see any benefit in that ancient wisdom?
That is an ancient practice. It is not ancient wisdom. That's an ancient practice. It is not ancient wisdom. For me, the ancient wisdom is all said in one sentence. And it happens to be that of the Buddha. 2,500 years ago, ancient enough for me.
Not very ancient.
Events happen, deeds are done, but there is no individual doer of any deed. And that is enlightenment. And then the usual question, which is rarely asked, question which should be asked, is never asked. The seekers of which I am asked, seekers of enlightenment, what do they expect to get out of enlightenment for the rest of their lives that they did not have before? What do you want? Enlightenment. And for that, I'm going to prepare anything. I have already been doing sadhana for 30 years. You may not admit. I'm frustrated. I don't know how many years I'll have to go and do it, but that's what I'm supposed to do. Hard sadhana, discipline. So my point is, enlightenment is taken as a goal. Enlightenment is taken as a goal. My point is, it is not a goal. What do I expect to get out of enlightenment of self-realization for the rest of my life that I didn't have before? Why am I asking? Who is seeking enlightenment? I am. I, Ramesh, a separate entity, is looking for enlightenment. So having got enlightenment, the separate entity must ask himself, having got enlightenment, what will I have for the rest of my life that I didn't have before? Unfortunately, that is a question the seeker usually doesn't go into. Enlightenment, that's the goal.
Would you like to go into it now?
Sure. So my point is, again, Premananda, The answer has been given by the Buddha. Enlightenment means the end of suffering. Straight. No problems, no confusion. What is enlightenment? Events happen, deeds are done, but there is no individual doer of any deed. That is final understanding. Enlightenment. What does enlightenment do? Straight again. Enlightenment means the end of suffering. So, I have to find out what does the Buddha mean? What could the Buddha have meant by the word suffering? You see? Usually, by the word suffering would be understood as the pain in the moment. Living means living from moment to moment, never knowing whether the next moment is going to bring peace, pleasure or pain. That is life and living. So what a human being wants? Pleasure all the time, no pain. So, most people, when they understand enlightenment means the end of suffering, they say, yes, that's what I've been looking for. No more pain in the moment. No more pain in the future. No more physical pain. No more psychological pain. No more physical pain. No grief. No financial pain. No more pain. But what I am saying is, Buddha was no fool. Buddha knew that basis of life and living means living from moment to moment, never knowing whether the next moment is going to bring pain or pleasure. In fact, alternating pain and pleasure is the very basis of life and living. Pain is part of the basis of life and living. How can you remove it? How can you remove something from the very basis of life and living? Therefore, the Buddha could not possibly have promised the end of pain in the moment. Therefore, what could the Buddha have meant by suffering? When I asked myself the question, I came to the understanding. Obviously, enlightenment means accepting that I am not the doer. So that ends the suffering. Obviously, the suffering which I have created for myself in my life because I thought I was the doer. You see? So what is the suffering which I have created for myself because of my sense of personal doership for me as well as the other? That suffering, I came to the conclusion, is obvious. The suffering which I have by carrying the load of guilt and shame for my stupid and what I thought bad actions. A load of hatred and malice, jealousy and envy towards the other for his action. That is the suffering which I have been carrying because of my sense of personal worship for me and the other. Load of shame and guilt for my action. Hatred and malice, jealousy and envy towards the other's action. Once I am able to accept totally, no one is a doer. That is enlightenment according to the Buddha, which I fully accept. Then I no longer have to carry the load of guilt and suffering for my actions, hatred and malice, jealousy and envy about the other's action. In other words, the suffering that ends is the suffering of guilt and shame, hatred and malice towards the other. In other words, me, Ramesh, the ego, is totally free of any weight of guilt and shame, hatred and malice, while continuing to accept whatever is in the moment. Sometimes pain, sometimes pleasure, which is life. So I have to go through life accepting the pain or pleasure of the moment. I have no choice. But while I'm doing that, deep down, I'm free of this load of guilt and shame, hatred and malice. In other words, I go through life necessarily without choice, having to accept the pain or pleasure of the moment. But me, Ramesh, the ego, is always clean and pure, without the impurity of guilt and shame, hatred and malice towards the other. So I go through life necessarily accepting the pain and pleasure of the moment, but my ego being totally clean and pure. And the ego being clean and pure in life means, according to my concept, peace with myself and harmony with the other. The basis of unhappiness, suffering, according to me, is my relationship with the other. What is life? For me, life means not what is happening around the universe. Life for me means what is happening to me in my relationship with the other. The basis of my life and happiness is my relationship with the other, whoever the other is. So from morning till night, there's always a relationship. At home, with my wife and children, with my neighbors, when I go to the office, my business colleagues, my customers if I'm in business, or a total stranger. So unless my relationship with the other is harmonious, I cannot ever dream of any happiness. That is simple and clear. So, am I happy now? No. Why? Because obviously my relationship with the other is not harmonious. Why is my relationship not harmonious? Because my entire conditioning, ever since my birth, conditioning has been the other is a potential danger. Life means competition. Life means struggle. Struggle against the other. Therefore, the basis of life and living is competing with the other. That's been the conditioning for every human being. Conditioning at home, conditioning in society, conditioning in school. Who is going to be the first in class? Competition. So, with this conditioning, with this kind of conditioning, every human being has been trained to regard the other as a potential enemy. How can the relationship between me and the other ever become harmonious? Only if I am able to accept totally the revolutionary concept against all previous conditioning. The total acceptance of the fact, if I am not supposed to be hurt according to my destiny, God's will, cosmic law, no power on earth can hurt me. If it is not my destiny to be hurt, no power on earth can hurt me. Why should I regard the other as a potential danger? And if it is my destiny to be hurt, then through which body, mind, organism something happened which hurts me is irrelevant. The whole point, as I see it, is if I am going to be hurt, through which body, mind, organism, through which person something happened which hurts me is irrelevant. And I cannot treat the whole world as a potential danger. So with this understanding, the other is helpless to do anything. That everything is happening. The other is not concerned. Everything is happening, and how that happening affects whom is the destiny of that particular instance. So I shall be hurt only if it is my destiny for some happening to hurt me. The other is just not concerned with this revolutionary concept. If I am able to accept totally, then I have really no basis for accepting the other as a potential danger. In other words, only if I am able to accept totally, I as a separate entity and the other as a separate entity are both only instruments, uniquely programmed instruments, uniquely designed instruments through which life happens. Only if I am able to accept that totally, then there is no reason for me not to have a harmonious relationship with the other. In other words, only if I am able to accept that me and the other are both helpless instruments, we find universal brotherhood as helpless instruments. So not only I don't have to accept the other as potential danger, but I accept him as a helpless brother, neither of whom can do anything about anything. Whatever happens is happening according to the cosmic law. Only with this total acceptance that I can get rid of the thousands of years of conditioning of regarding the other as a source of potential danger. And when I have a harmonious relationship with the other, and also accept, so basis of the acceptance, remember, as I see it, everything is happening. Whoever is affected by that happening will depend on his destiny. Whatever happens is his destiny. So with that understanding, my point is, that means everything is happening. Therefore, there is no question of my blaming anyone for any happening. The absolute basis of my acceptance is everything is happening. How it affects depends on the relevant destiny. So everything is happening, therefore the immediate result is, immediate understanding is, therefore there is no question of my blaming anyone for any happening, neither me nor the other. Not blaming me, not carrying a load of guilt and shame. Not blaming the other, not carrying a load of hatred and malice. Absence of the load of hatred and malice, absence of the load of guilt and shame, means the presence of harmony with the other and peace with myself. And incidentally, that is precisely what the seeker can hope to have if enlightenment happens. That is all. In fact, I would tell the seeker, this is all you are going to get. But if you want something more, the power to walk on water, you are not going to get it with this understanding. So be sure what you want. What are you looking for? Enlightenment. What do you expect enlightenment to do for you. To be able to walk on water. To be able to be in 3 places at the same time. To want to knowing whether it is going to rain, whether it is now raining in London or not. That is not going to happen. It may happen, but it has nothing to do with this understanding. It may happen. Anything can happen in the world. But it will not be the result of this understanding. Not the result of this enlightenment.
I could just take you back to
Sure.
what we were talking about with sadhana. You mentioned the Buddha, and of course he was well known for spending about 12 years doing very hard sadhana. And now his followers are doing much sadhana in the Buddhist monasteries.
Wait a minute, Pramana. What did I say? I didn't say I'm a Buddhist. I didn't tell you I'm following the Buddhist sadhana.
That's very clear.
So, what I expect is what the Buddha said, not what the Buddhists said.
Right.
Let me be clear.
But the fact is he did much sadhana, and his followers are following this way.
Yeah.
So what will Ramesh's followers be doing?
I have not the faintest idea, Pramana. I don't have the faintest idea. First, I don't know who my followers are. 2, I don't know what can be followed.
They'll have no sadhana to do, no?
Since you mentioned that, let me be clear. Certain amount of sadhana I do recommend.
Ah, okay.
When the question is, everything is happening. This total acceptance of non-doership. The acceptance of non-doership has to be total.
You call this surrender?
What the hell does it matter, Pramana? I call it surrender, you call it 10 other names.
Well,
Forget it. The point I'm making is the understanding, basic understanding is everything is happening, no one does anything. Now, intellectually, who will be unable to accept it? Easy to accept intellectually. The beautiful, lovely concept of non-doership. It relieves me from blaming myself, feeling guilty. It relieves me from blaming the other and making an enemy of it. No guilt and shame, no hatred. Intellectually, who would it do? Everybody would accept it. Lovely concept. But for the concept to work, the acceptance has to be total. See what I mean? Acceptance has to be total. So the question that arises then is, I know it is not total. I know it's only intellectual. I know it is not total. So first question, what do I have to do to make the intellectual acceptance total acceptance? The moment I think about it, I realize the foolishness in the question. What do I have to do to be able to accept totally that I am not the doer? What do I have to do to be absolutely certain that I am not the doer? Obviously, nothing I can do. I am not the doer. It can only happen if it is supposed to happen. Therefore, I come to the conclusion. Now the acceptance is total but intellect. But the concept cannot work unless the understanding acceptance is total. Therefore, since I am not the doer, the final total understanding can only happen. Clear? It can only happen. If it is supposed to happen according to God's will, cosmic law, my destiny, then my question changes. You are asking me, your question changes. I accept that I have to wait until something happens. But while I am waiting for something to happen or not to happen, is there not something I can do? Because the doership is still there. That's the whole point. Is there not something like, while I am waiting for something to happen? For that my answer is yes. And that is the only sadhana I recommend. Having said that, I am not asking you to drop any other sadhana you may be doing. What do I say about any sadhana that you are doing now? Very simple. If whatever you are doing as sadhana, you like to do it, go ahead. Why should you deprive yourself of the pleasure of doing something? So this sadhana which I recommend is very, very simple. And that is what I call self-investigation. And the practice that I recommend is, assuming that you are busy throughout the day, at the end of the day, take 20-30 minutes off. Sit quietly, but be comfortable. And in order to be comfortable, if you like your usual glass of beer, take it. This is not a discipline. But be comfortable. And then do some very, very simple self-investigation. Self-investigation being very simple. From the many activities of the day, most of the activities you will accept. You really don't know whether they are yours or not. But from those activities, select one action which you are certain is your action. Others you don't know. But this one action you are sure, certain that it is your action. Then do some simple investigation. Find out whether it is truly your action. The first question is, if I consider my action, if it is my action, did I decide to do that action at any time? My action. Did I decide to do that action at any time? And you will find, no, I didn't. How did the action happen? Then your investigation tells you, I had to have a thought. A thought happened. And that thought led to what I now call my action. If that thought had not happened, my action would not have happened. And I have no control over the happening of that thought at that time and place. How can I call it my action? As simple as that. Then, having convinced yourself that that action which you are so sure is your action, turns out not to be your action. There is another action, and another. And I tell you with great confidence, born of experience, that you may investigate any number of actions. Every single time you come to the conclusion that the action which I am convinced is my action would not have happened unless something else had happened first. If I had not happened to be at a certain place and time and seen something, my action would not have happened. If I had not been at a place and time at that time and heard something, or smelled something, or tasted something, or touched something, my action would not have happened. And I truly had no control over the earlier happening. So when you may consider any number of actions, and every single time, without exception, you come to the conclusion that the action which you thought was your action turns out not to be your action. Each time the understanding is bound to go a little deeper. But the total acceptance will happen only when, according to my concept, a flash of total acceptance is likely to happen. This sadhana, doing this sadhana, which makes their understanding go deeper every time you do this investigation. At some point of time, it is more than likely that a flash of total acceptance is likely to happen. What is the flash? I simply cannot be the doer of any action. I simply cannot be the doer of any action. And if I cannot be the doer of any action, no one else can be the doer of an action either. Whether he or she believes it or not, I know that the other cannot be the doer of any action. Whether the other is able to accept that or not is his or her destiny. But I am convinced no other can do any action either. Only when this flash happens is there likely to be total removal of doubt.
My fourth question. Ramana said that self-inquiry is the most direct route to realizing the self. What do you say about self-inquiry and how to conduct self-inquiry?
I'm not asking you to do self-inquiry. I've turned the self-inquiry into self-investigation. And ultimately, you'll find in Ramana plenty of places. The basis of the ego is doership. Basis of the ego is doership. You see, the Ramana Maharshi always knew it, that the ego as such has to be there. The Ramana Maharshi knew fully well that he himself, until the moment of his death, had an ego. He talked about the sage's ego. Ramana Maharshi talked about the sage's ego. He did not. You don't know, but he did. Ramana Maharshi talked quite freely of the sage's ego. And he called the sage's ego remnants of a burnt rope. Headless, you can't tie the rope which is burnt to tie anybody. Therefore, if the sage's ego is helpless, but the sage does have an ego. So if the sage has an ego, and the ordinary person has an ego, the sage responds to his name being called, the ordinary person responds to his name being called. Hey, the difference. The difference is, the ordinary person believes that he is the doer and the other is the doer. Whereas the sage has been able to accept totally. Neither he is the doer, nor the other is the doer. Therefore, in the case of a sage, the sage's ego has been purified of the taint of doership. That is all. Doership has been removed from the sage's ego. Sage's ego is without doership. And therefore the sage's ego is pure, whereas the ordinary person's ego is not pure. That is the difference.
My understanding of self-inquiry is that he was suggesting that people would ask, who is the doer of whatever was happening? Who is the doer of washing the dishes?
Yes.
And the answer is I. And then you ask, who is this I?
Yes.
And the effect of asking that is to take your attention from out there, the hands washing the dishes, to inside to the source.
Right.
And from what I can understand from self-investigation, it has exactly the same effect.
Fine.
Is that correct? Is that a correct understanding of
that is your concept, Ramanand. That is your concept.
I'm trying to understand self-investigation. It seems to have the same effect because by asking this question...
Now, wait a minute. When the self-inquiry, as you have described, leads to the same effect? I don't know. See what I mean?
Well, can I ask if my understanding is correct about self?
As I told you, I don't know whether self-inquiry as you have understood would necessarily lead to this end which my self-investigation must lead.
I also don't know, but it
all I
is.
would say, self-investigation is more focused, and is therefore for an ordinary person is much easier than a general self-inquiry.
When Ramana was asked, when will the realization of the self be gained? He replied, when the world, which is what is seen, has been removed, there will be realization of the self, which is the seer. What is the true understanding of the world and how to remove the world?
The world cannot be removed. The world is there. All you can understand is world, living, represents for me the relationship between me and the other. Living in the world means my relationship with the other. So understanding that my relationship with the other is the basis of my life in this world. When I come to the conclusion, neither me is the doer, nor the other is a doer. Neither of us can be blamed for anything that happens in the world. Then the immediate result is that I don't blame anyone. Not blaming anyone. I'm free of guilt and shame for my and hatred and nuts for the other. That is the result of this understanding.
It has been suggested that the mind must be destroyed for liberation to occur. Do you have a mind?
Now wait a minute, yes. And this is your question, do I have a mind?
I'm asking you.
Since I'm not an idiot, I obviously have a mind. Since you are not an idiot, you also obviously have a mind. But about mind, my understanding is the mind cannot be destroyed. If Ramana Maharshi, I'm not sure. If Ramana Maharshi said the mind must be destroyed, then his understanding is the same as mine. Which is, the mind cannot be destroyed. The mind as such is something which if any person, not an idiot, would require to live in this world. You see what I mean? Without the brain and the mind, a person would not be able to live the rest of his life as a separate entity he is. And yet, sages talk about destroying the mind. Sages talk about destroying the ego. And my point is, you have to go behind what the sage said and work out what they meant. Ego cannot be destroyed. That is clear. I have explained. You need the ego to live. Therefore, what the sages meant when the ego is to be destroyed, what the sages meant, but for some reason didn't bother to make it clear, is that no worship in the ego has to be destroyed. The ego cannot be destroyed. Similarly, the mind cannot be destroyed. Some aspect of the mind has to be destroyed. Mind cannot be destroyed. Some aspect of the mind has to be destroyed. What aspect? My concept on this matter is very simple. The mind according to my two aspects, the working mind and the thinking. The working mind has to be there even for the sage to live his life, for the simplest action to be done, for anything slightly more complex, where some planning has to be done. The working mind has to be there. And therefore, the sage has to have a working mind. So just as in the case of the sage, doership in the ego has been removed. Similarly, as far as the mind is concerned, the thinking aspect, the thinking mind, the thinking aspect has been destroyed. In the ego, the doership has been destroyed. In the mind, the thinking aspect has been destroyed. So that, in the case of a sage, the working mind always functions. The working mind is always in the moment. The working mind is always in the present moment, doing its job in the present moment. Whereas the thinking mind is never in the present moment. The thinking mind is always either worrying about or thinking about what is past or projecting into the future. Thinking mind is what goes into the past and projects itself into the future. Therefore, the thinking mind creates problems, imaginary, illusory problems about what might happen in the future, which is what causes unhappiness. So in the case of a sage, he is only concerned with what happens in the moment and is not concerned with what happens in the future. Why? Because one of the total acceptances of everything that is happening means whatever happens in future, no one is to blame. Therefore, the sage does not keep thinking of the future. The future has already been determined. Everything is predetermined. When lack of doership personally is accepted, it means everything is determined. So since everything is determined, and the sage has been able to accept that everything is predetermined, the sage does not waste his time thinking about the future. Whatever is to happen is going to happen according to God's will, cosmic law. So it is the thinking mind aspect which is removed in the case of the sage, just as the sense of doership is removed from the ego of the sage.
My understanding is that Ramana didn't actually say you have to destroy the mind. He used the word monanasa, which, as I understand it, doesn't mean destroying
What
the
did
mind.
he say? What word did he use?
Monanasa.
No. Manonasha. Premananda. Manonasha. Mano is mind. Nasha is destruction. Manonasha. What is to be destroyed? Not the working mind. You won't be able to live without it. Therefore, the manonasha is the destruction of the thinking mind. Thinking mind aspect. That is to be destroyed.
That's very good, very clear.
Good?
Yeah. There's a lot of misunderstanding about that.
Indeed.
Because many of the people who sit in Buddhist monasteries for 30 years, they're trying to actually destroy the mind.
Yeah.
What about vasanas?
I'm sorry?
And what about vasanas? Vasana,
Vasana.
the tendencies of the mind.
Vasana. Vasana. You keep saying vasana, I keep saying vasana.
Okay.
Anyway,
We know what we're talking about.
now vasana, what is generally meant by vasana, I refer to as conditioning. Conditioning. Now, what arises in the mind? Your eyes see something. Your ears hear something. promptly there is a reaction. The reaction is in the body, mind, organism. Your eye sees something, my eye sees the same thing. But the reaction in the two bodies can be different. See what I mean? Therefore, the reaction which happens in the body, mind, organism depends on what I call the programming in the body, mind, organism. The programming in the body, mind, organism, Premananda, is this, the concept. You had no control over being born to particular parents. Therefore, you had no control over the genes in this human object. And as you know, more and more research brings out the fact that more and more of what you think is your action turns out to be a natural result of your genes. One of the later things I have, if you're homosexual, don't blame yourself. It may be your genes. More and more research says that the genes have more and more impact on many things that happen. Similarly, you have no control over being born to a particular parent in a particular geographical environment and a particular social status in that environment. And in that environment, geographical and social, you have had conditioning from day one. Conditioning at home, conditioning in society, conditioning in school at that social level, conditioning in church or temple, continuous bombardment of conditioning. This is good, that is bad. You must do this, you must never do that. Continuous happening. And therefore, my concept is, whatever you think at any moment depends on your genes over which you have no control and your conditioning over which also you have no control. In other words, that is why I say no action is your action. If every action of yours is based on something over which you have no control, on say vasanas, how can you be held responsible? In other words, Preman, what I'm saying is, whatever I think and do at any moment depends entirely on my genes and conditioning which God made. I repeat, whatever I think and do at any moment is based entirely on my genes and conditioning which God created. Therefore, does it not simply mean whatever I think and do at any moment is precisely what God wants me to think and do? I repeat, whatever I do depends on my genes and conditioning which God made. With this understanding, Premanand, I firmly believe that whatever people think I do is precisely what God wants me to do. And therefore, I have to accept it as my action, as God wants me to do, and accept the consequences. Anything I do is what God wants me to do. Therefore, the consequences are also what God expects me to accept.
Just stop 1 second. We just need to change.
Sure.
1 second. We've got to. We're in halfway through number 7.
Okay.
So we're doing very well.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, very good answers, and pictures are beautiful. Everything is perfect. Must be God is shining this morning.
As he always is. For me, he is always shining.
So talking of these tendencies.
Yes. The tendency, vasana is a tendency. Based on what? based on, they say, your past karma. And I say there is no past karma. Tendency, yes, based on my genes and my conditioning which God created. Therefore, if an action happens based on my vasana, God created the vasana, and whatever I do is exactly what God wants me to do. Whether you call it programming or whether you call it vasana.
And must these tendencies be removed for self-realization to be permanent?
Yes. Now, vasana cannot be removed totally. If vasanas could be removed, then Premanand, you could expect a sage to be a perfect human being. Isn't it? If all the vasanas were removed, and if self-realization does that, then a sage, you would never have to find a sage getting angry, no anger, no fear, total compassion all the time. Is that how we find the sage? In the sage, the sage I am known, Nisargadatta Maharadž, anger would arise very quickly. Fear would also arise. He had to go to the dentist. Will it hurt? Fear. Anger could arise, fear could arise, compassion could arise. Fear, anger, compassion arising in the body-mind organism, over which no one has any control. The only control comes in when the ego responds to that natural, biological, natural reaction. Until the ego reacts to that, the ego has no control over what happens in the body-mind organism. If you say they depend on the vasana, vasana will contain them.
I think Ramana Maharshi said that when he was asked about some of his disciples who'd spent many years, maybe 20 or 30 years sitting with him, he was asked about this situation. And he said that if the vasanas are so strong, then this person won't realize in this lifetime. And he also, I think, said that if somebody does become realized, he can become unrealized if the vasanas are very strong. In other words, they pull you out of it. Is that your understanding?
No. For me, realization happening, then it cannot be pulled out. Realization cannot be unrealized. Realization means if something, there's a strong obstruction, realization will not happen. Realization will not happen. Realization happening and unrealized, I don't accept.
For example, many of the people that sit regularly in this meeting, I would guess 1 hour later, they're still very awakened. But maybe 4 or 5 hours later, they're not anymore.
Then that is their destiny. Their destiny to be awake only for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. But if the understanding is total, the impact is so great, then it could lead to total realization. Basically, what happens to the people who listen to me is their respective destiny, according to God's will, cosmic law.
But isn't it their tendencies that take them away from that after 4 or 5 hours?
Then only that is their destiny, Premanand. The vasanas are removed only when they are supposed to be removed, according to the respective destiny.
Okay. This is a little bit difficult question. At the end of his book, Self-Inquiry, Ramana says, he who is thus endowed with a mind that has become subtle and who has the experience of the self is called a Jivan Mukta.
Yeah.
Is this the state that can be called self-realized?
Yes, sure.
And then it goes on.
Yes.
And when one is immersed in the ocean of bliss
Yes.
and has become one with it,
Yes.
without any differentiated existence,
Yes.
one is called I'm sure I'm going to pronounce this wrongly,
Yes.
Vihamukta. Vihamukta?
Dehamukta?
Yeah.
Dehamukta.
No, Vidimukta.
Yeah, that's the there.
It has to be there.
It
It
is,
has to be Dehamukta.
okay. It is a state of Vihamukta that is referred to as the transcendental Turiya. This is the final goal.
Yes.
Is this the state that can be called enlightenment?
No. What is your question?
I guess my question is there a state of realization and then different state of enlightenment?
No. Jivan Mukta is the sage lives his life according to my concept, totally without the sense of personal doership. That is Jivan Mukta. Also, that is Deha Mukta. Deha Mukta, free from the body as a doer. He cannot be free of the body. The body, he will be there until the last moment. The body is alive. No one can be free of the body. But if the word Deha Mukta is used, I would only construct it to mean sense of doership in the body. Sense of doership in the body.
The word is there,
Yes.
not there. There.
So there's no question of self-realization and enlightenment as two different states. Understanding.
They can be two different concepts. There can be two different concepts. If the concept is self-realization makes a man perfect, that's his concept, which is not acceptable to me.
Shivananda, for example, talks, I think, about 7 stages of enlightenment, something like this.
That's his concept. That is his concept.
Could you make your concept absolutely clear?
I'm sorry?
Could you make your concept absolutely clear to me?
Sure, tell me where you are not clear, and that makes it clear.
I'm not clear.
Yes.
Well, I am actually clear, but I would like you to make it clear that there is only one understanding, and that self-realization and enlightenment is in fact the same thing.
Self-realization, enlightenment, being one with God, you can have another half a dozen synonyms. They're all synonyms. Only question is, what do I mean by enlightenment? Enlightenment for me means the total acceptance that there is only one source. The one unmanifest source has become the many in this phenomenal manifestation. The one unmanifest has become the many in the manifestation. And in the functioning of manifestation, which we call life, egos had to be there. Without the ego, interhuman relationships wouldn't happen. And without interhuman relationships, the functioning of manifestation life, as we call it, would not have happened. Therefore, the one consciousness identifies itself with the many sentient objects and created separate entities with identified consciousness and separate ego. Because of it, life happened, interhuman relationship happened, and life happened.
It appears essential to meet a guru and stay with that guru. Who is the guru? What is the guru's role? How to recognize a true guru?
First and foremost, there is no true guru. There are many gurus. To which guru you will go will depend on your destiny. Assuming that there are many false gurus. There are false gurus. For anything is genuine, that means many not genuine. So whether you go to a genuine guru or whether you go to a false guru is your destiny. And if your destiny is to go to a false guru for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you will do it. And also, there may not be as clear a distinction as false guru and a genuine guru. There may be a guru where the enlightenment or the understanding is not total. But he can still be, teaching can happen through him. So, someone goes to a guru, 25, 30 years. Deep down, there is a frustration. Then there is a specific case I know. For 30 years, remarkably honest and sincere sadhana. But the end of it, certain amount of frustration. After that frustration, something made him come here. And after between 2 or 3 years, he had the final understanding. After he had the final understanding, in 3 months he was dead. He has blood cancer, leukemia. And he, in his own words, he said, Ramesh, when I had the report, which was practically a death sentence, galloping leukemia, I never felt better in my life. So, the point was, his destiny was to go to a particular guru, and then 1 or 2 others, have a certain amount of understanding, yes, but not the total understanding, and felt a certain amount of depression and frustration. But it was his way that there had to be a final understanding, and after the final understanding, not more than 6 months to live. That is his destiny.
And what is the guru's role?
Guru's role. If you ask me, the Guru's role is first to tell his disciples that whatever he is saying is a concept. It is not the truth. First thing, the duty of a Guru, according to me, to tell the people that whatever he says is a concept. And all that a concept can do for you is to bring you peace and harmony in life. See, the concept from the Guru leads you to this peace and harmony. That is your destiny. The Guru can only give his concept. Whether the concept will do the disciple any good is his destiny. Whether the disciple will be able to accept your concept is his destiny. Therefore, first and foremost, the duty of a Guru, according to me, is to make it clear that what he tells is not the truth. It is a concept. And 2, to make his concept absolutely clear. According to me, the duty of the Guru is to tell him it's a concept, and 2, to make his own concept as clear as he possibly can, so that no confusion remains in the mind of the disciple. Whether the disciple accepts the concept or not, how deeply he is able to accept it, is destiny.
Is there any way a seeker can tell who is a true guru?
From the point of view of the seeker, if the seeker knows that in the presence of his Guru he has come home, That's his goal.
Ramana's devotees had tremendous devotion to him, and he himself to Arunachala. Please say something about bhakti, devotion, in the pursuit of awakening.
I'm sorry?
Can you say something about bhakti, devotion?
Yes, yes. Not bhakti, bhakti. Bhakti is devotion.
I shall have to get some lessons after. Yeah.
No, it's the only problem is, I can't understand your pronunciation. Otherwise you can. Yes.
Okay. So we're talking about that devotion.
Yeah. Now, whether devotion happens in a particular body, mind, organism is not, is part of his destiny. But ultimately, upon even bhakti must ultimately lead to the one conclusion, according to my concept. That is, no one is a doer. Everything happens according to the will of God or according to the cosmic law. Whichever way you go, I'll tell you the instinct of Tukaram. Have you heard of Tukaram? Tukaram is a very famous saint in Maharashtra. Total bhakti. He wrote more than 5,000 verses. Basically, an uneducated man. 5,000 verses. In the original verses, he clearly says, he addresses Vithala, the temple, Vithoba, that is his guru, representative of Krishna, Vishnu. He tells him, Lord, for the jnani, you can let him see you as formless. But for me, please, life after life, he believed in rebirth. For life after life, show yourself to me in a form which I can enjoy and pursue, which I can pray to. See what I mean? Bhakti, I don't want to see, think of you as a beloved form. For me, please assume a form. Then the same Tukaram, after the final understanding had happened, that it is the same one source who brings about anything as happening. He had the final understanding. And then the same Tukaram, when the bhakta had become self-realized, the bhakta goes to the temple and tells Vithoba, Vithoba, you are a cheat. I didn't know that you and I are ultimately the source. But you knew. And yet you extracted so many years of worship from me. You are a cheat. Bhakta suddenly becomes a jnana. Ultimately, what does a bhakta say? What does the bhakta say? Bhakta ultimately says, you're all there is, I am nothing. You are doing whatever you are doing. I have nothing to do with it. In specific terms, Tvameva bhokta, Tvameva karta, Tvameva bhokta. The bhakta says, you are the doer, you are the enjoyer. Then he said, the bhakta says, you are the speaker and you are the listener. You are all there is. Therefore, how can the speaker be anything other than you? Which means, it may seem as if I am speaking, Premananda is listening, or Premananda is speaking and Ramesh is listening. But the Bhakta says, no, it appears like that. But what is really happening is, it is God functioning through both body, mind, instrument and bringing out, speaking to one, listening to the other. Where is the difference between the jhanis? You say, I'm not the doer. And the Bhakta says, you do the speaking and you do the listening and you do the enjoying. Basically, it's the same thing. What I'm saying, Vimanande, I'm not saying that there are two different paths to reach the soul. What I'm saying is, precisely each moment, what they mean is, words are different, but they mean the same thing. You are the only doer. You do the speaking, you do the listening, you do the doing, you do the experiencing. That is the Bhakta. Jnani understand the same thing. The abundant instrument through which you are doing whatever is happening. So for me, they are not two different paths reaching the same goal. They are the same. Which takes precedence when? In the destiny. You begin as a bhakta, end as a jnana. Or you begin as a seeking jnana and end as a bhakta.
Seekers often have curious ideas about the enlightened state. For example, that the enlightened one sees the world as a grey nothing while sitting in eternal bliss.
Say that again, too.
This is an example of maybe a wrong idea about enlightenment.
Yes.
That somebody sees the world as a grey nothing while sitting in eternal bliss.
Yeah.
This is one maybe wrong idea.
Yeah.
Could you describe a typical day and how you perceive the world?
You see, my main problem with that is, if I am in bliss all day, whose life do you want to live? Daily life you want to live. How can I have a daily life if I am in bliss all day?
I'm not suggesting that you or other enlightened people are sitting in bliss all day, but this is one of the wrong ideas that seekers have.
For this reason, how can a man, the sage, when after self-realization, he still has to earn a living. I'm talking of someone who still has to earn a living. How can he remain in bliss? Even when he has to eat something, he has to come out of that bliss, surely.
In the last part of your...
Now, why is that word bliss? My problem is with the word bless.
In the last part of your autobiography, there's a beautiful description of your daily life.
Yeah.
I wonder whether you could give us a little taste of that.
Shall I read it?
No, it would be nice if you just see perhaps some of the main aspects of your daily life so people can understand how an awakened person lives their life.
Fair enough. Now, how do I live my life? The basic question and the answer, in any given situation in life, what is life? Daily, one situation after another situation. In any situation, what I do is I live my life as if I have free will. In any given situation, I live my life as if I have total free will, with a total understanding that I am not the doer. Therefore, for practical purposes, in any given situation, I do exactly as I think I should do, as if I have free will. having done it, I know that the results have never been in my control. In any given situation, I decide what I want. I put in my best efforts. Having done that, with the total acceptance, what happens has never been in my control. I don't keep thinking of the results, wishing particular things. Therefore, I am not frustrated. I repeat, in any given situation, I still do precisely that I think what I should do. Having done it, I accept the consequences, good, bad, or indifferent. Basically, that's what life is. I repeat, in any given situation, I always do whatever I think I should do and accept the consequences, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. That's precisely my destiny.
The last question.
Oh. Very well timed.
Yes, yes. Must be destiny at work.
Sure.
You've given us a profound course on awakening. When you would meet someone with a passion for awakening, what would your short advice be to that person?
In any given situation, do whatever you think you should do. And never expect any result. If you keep expecting some result, you'll be frustrated. And the results have never been in your control. Therefore, at any moment, do whatever you think you should do, as if you are the doer. Total free will. Whatever you think you should do needs motivation. The management people tell me, without motivation, how can anybody work? Right? So I decide what I want, motivation. And I do whatever I think I should do to get what I want. But having done it, I forget about the results, which have never been in my control. Therefore, there is no frustration.
Thank you. Is there anything you would like to add to this dialogue?
No, nothing. We have covered everything. If you like, I'll tell you what. You can ask me. Anybody has a question? Yes, no question.
Does anybody have a question?
Any question? Please. Oh, wait a minute. You want this? No, I think. Yes, sir.
Sir, I'm wondering whether what your comment then means that one should not question the results at all and accept the result.
No. You can question the results.
See, sometimes
Questioning the results means what? Questioning the results means
you do some
wait a
actions
minute. You have created a fresh situation.
by questioning the result.
In that situation, again, do whatever you think you should do.
But that could mean, though, that you're not willing to accept the outcome of your actions.
Exactly.
So you're advocating that one should do that as well.
No. Whether you accept that or not is your destiny. If you are not able to accept the results, what happens? If you are able to do something, I said do it. If you are not able to do it, you remain frustrated. That is your destiny. And in any given situation, make no mistake, I still say, do whatever you think you should do. All I'm saying is, if you accept whatever happens, and yet do whatever you think you should do in the circumstances. No contradiction.
But how does one bring about the end of suffering then? Because suffering,
What do you mean by suffering? You've gone
it
into
means that being at peace with yourself and with others around
I
you.
entirely agree.
Now, if others around
And what we
me,
talked about today is entirely about that.
yes, correct, yeah. If others around me have an impact on my, well, I wouldn't say destiny because you say destiny is destiny, but have an impact on my daily life.
Yeah.
And I can bring about change to that by not accepting certain actions. I should do it is what you're saying. But that it might cause me anguish and possibly suffering
Sure.
is my destiny.
Yeah. Precisely. Precisely. You have said it. You have said it.
Takes a little convincing.
What else can you do? Tell me.
No, I can, for example,
Yes.
as an outcome of my enlightenment, stop questioning certain things which cause me grief.
So, nobody compels you to ask questions.
No, but whether I should or no will be an outcome of my enlightenment.
No, not at all. The result of the enlightenment will be not to ask questions. What's the use of asking questions? Everything has happened exactly as it should be. Everything is going to happen exactly as it should be. What's the use of my asking questions? To whom? That is the understanding. So the basis of the understanding, as I see it, is to be able to accept what is. Ultimately, what is the understanding? To be able to accept whatever is with the understanding that whatever is must contain both the interconnected opposites of every conceivable kind, beginning with male and female. What is at any moment, the basis of what is at any moment, is the existence of both the interconnected opposites of every conceivable kind, beginning with male and female.
So,
Acceptance of that means peace. If I'm not able to accept that, I want one against the other. I want only to be male, never the female. I want only beauty, not ugliness. I will always want good, never the bad. And basically, what is good and bad themselves are concepts. So my basic point is, if I am able to accept whatever is with the understanding that they must include both, then my understanding means the acceptance of both the interconnected opposites or polaric counterpart as something which has to be there. Which means I accept the duality. I accept the duality, including the duality of my own personality. I accept that me, my personality, has some faults as well as good points. I have good points as well as bad points. Therefore, there is humility where I am concerned with myself. And if I know that I myself am not perfect, how can I expect the other to be perfect? Therefore, I accept faults in myself, I accept faults in the other. Accepting the faults in the other means tolerance. So in life, accepting this means humility means tolerance in the other.
so what I must therefore learn from your teachings is the acceptance rather than any future change in the way I conduct myself.
That is right. In other words, what I'm saying is, if you are able to accept what is, and you are able to accept what is, accept some little thing which you don't like, fine. Then what I'm saying is, something that you don't like, do whatever you think you can do to correct it. Having done it, you have to accept what is. If you are able to accept what is, you will not be frustrated. Why? Because you have accepted the basic duality of life. If you are not able to accept it and keep on choosing one against the other, then you do not accept the basic duality of life, and therefore you live in dualism. Accept one against the other, all the which means frustration. So if you are able to accept the duality, you are at peace. Otherwise, if you live in dualism, constant frustration.
Sometimes one does not accept injustice because one suffers. If, as a consequence of your teachings, I succeed in conquering suffering, does that mean, therefore, that my tolerance of injustice will increase?
Tolerance of injustice. Injustice from your point of view. Justice from the point of view of someone else.
No, that's true. But when you question
that's true.
injustice sometimes, when you ask the question, sometimes justice is done because you asked.
Therefore, do whatever you think you should do in any situation. Don't get away from that. In any given situation, do whatever you think you should do. And in any situation, don't forget, do whatever you think you should do. Having done it, you must accept the consequences. First and most important, you can only decide to do something and make effort to do it. What actually happened has never been in your control. That is the basis of life. So, when what actually happens is not in my control, nothing prevents me from deciding what I want, putting in my best effort. That's where my free will stops. And my life's experience, what actually happens has never been in my control. So I have to accept what finally happens as God's cosmic law, my destiny. Therefore, I repeat again, basic fact, very basic fact. Everything is a happening. How it affects me, whatever happens, how it affects me is my destiny. How it affects you is your destiny. You can't get away from this basic fact. Everything is a happening. How it affects whom is the respective destiny.
One more question regarding actions and thoughts. I am excited by a concept of no one is a doer.
That's it.
It seems to pan out with a lot of things that are probably be bothering me.
Sure.
What I, although would still not very comfortably accept,
Yeah.
is that one has no control over thoughts.
Now, wait a minute. Thought and thinking. My concept is thought and thinking. You have enormous confusion. My basic concept is thought happens. You have no control. No one has any control.
If I can just sort of give a practical bent to that from my daily living.
Yeah.
Now, I may walk out of this room today at the end of the
Yes.
session and decide to do any of 3 or 4 different things.
Yes.
Those 3 or 4 different things will emanate from thoughts that come to my mind.
No. No.
They should. I mean, for example, if this was just a slummish area,
Yeah.
dirty and filthy,
Yeah.
I would have different thoughts in my mind.
Therefore,
This
not
is
you. What you are describing is a natural biological reaction in the body, mind, organ. Your eyes see something.
But that impacts your thoughts.
No. Your eyes see something. My eyes see the same thing. The reaction in this and mine could be totally different.
Sure. No, I accept
Based
that.
on what? Based on my genes and conditioning and your genes and conditioning.
So
So,
does conditioning not also include your surroundings, which
Over
you
which-
may have control over?
over which you have no control. Therefore, basically, let me explain. I've mentioned it, I think. You have no control over being born to particular parents. Therefore, you have no control over the genes. Similarly, you have no control over being born in a particular geographical environment in India, a certain social status.
But I may have control over in Bombay, where I live, for example.
Yes.
I may choose to live in X place rather than Y place.
Yes. And what
And
you do,
whether I live in Y place or X place
yes,
could influence my thoughts.
thought is something which comes from outside. I'll give you an explanation of
But
what.
can't I create
Wait a
the
minute.
environment where
Wait a
the
minute.
thoughts that come to me,
Wait a minute. Let me make it clear. Thought and thinking, two different. Let me explain. The physicist tells me how a thought happens. Physicist tells me out of thousands of probabilities, one probability collapses into a thought in a particular body-mind organ. I ask the physicist, who decides which probability? Who decides which body-mind organ? And the physicist, that's not my field. That's not my field. So the field is how a thought happens. Out of thousands of probabilities, one probability becomes an actuality as a thought in a body-mind organ. After that, the ego responds to that thought, and there is horizontal thinking in time. Happening of that thought is in the moment. The ego responds to that thought, and horizontal thinking happens in time. Horizontal thinking, your thinking. So you have control over that thinking. But the original thought which led to that thinking, no thinking. Therefore, original thought, horizontal thinking. Your eyes see something, there's a natural reaction in the body depending on your programming. Thereafter, the ego responds to that natural biological reaction and horizontal thinking. Whether a thought happens or a reaction happens, the ego subsequently reacts to that thought or that's happening, and horizontal thinking results. Horizontal thinking is your involvement, over which you have all the choice upon.
can I just summarize what I've understood from what you're saying? Do whatever you have to do in life.
Yes.
That just carries on normally. It's just your understanding of why things happen
Yes.
that make it easier for you to be at peace with yourself and those that surround you.
Understanding that I can never know the basis on which the cosmic law or God's will functions. That is the understanding. Whatever happens, I have to accept. I cannot know the basis on which a happening has happened. The happening happened. Why has that happening happened? Not some other happening. I can never know. Why? Because the happening is based on the cosmic law. And the basis of the cosmic law, which affects the entire universe for all eternity, how can I ever know the basis of that? Therefore, I can only accept the happening as a fact. Go on from there.
This philosophy, if I may call it that, is basically to enable you to gain a better understanding, to be at peace with yourself.
Absolutely.
This is not necessarily to make you a better human being.
Oh no. Without being a better human being, you can't have peace. Without being a human being.
But to
how
be
can
a
you
better
live?
human being is my destiny, isn't it?
Yes, but what kind of a human being? Acceptable to yourself. But if all the time you keep being a bad human being, you yourself decide you are a bad man, and you're carrying a load of guilt and shame all the time, how can you be at peace with yourself? Tell me.
Thank you.
Have you, the first time you're here,
No, I came once earlier. This is my second trip.
have you, there's several books that make things clear.
Yes, no, I have actually read portions with that question.
I see. Which book have you read?
Please.
I see. Now there's another book, Confusion No More. Confusion No More, which deals with confusion of the seeker, specifically. Fine. Yeah. No.
Trailokyatagaya